Something changed in the spirit realm the moment you stopped begging for love. Not when you cried. Not when you chased. Not when you tried to prove your worth to people who kept abandoning you. But the moment you finally chose peace over chaos, your sacred union began moving toward you. And here is the part most chosen ones never realize. The enemy was never afraid of your loneliness. They were afraid of your alignment. Because when a chosen one becomes peaceful after years of betrayal, manipulation, and emotional warfare, it means the karmic cycle is ending. It means your soul is no longer vibrating at the frequency of survival. You are entering the frequency of divine union. Have you noticed it lately? The silence no longer scares you. The need to chase people is disappearing. You suddenly feel detached from relationships that once consumed you. And somehow, even without proof, you feel like something sacred is approaching. That feeling is not random. Your spirit already knows. The union meant for you is getting closer. Something shifted the moment you stopped fighting for people who kept choosing chaos over you. And no, most people around you did not notice it. They still think you are simply quieter, more distant, less emotional, less reactive. But what they fail to understand is this. Your silence is not depression anymore. Your distance is not loneliness anymore. Your calmness is not emptiness. It is alignment. Chosen one, hear this carefully, because this message may explain everything you have been feeling lately. The peace entering your spirit right now is not random. It is not emotional numbness. And it is not you giving up on love. It is the first spiritual sign that your sacred union is approaching. Because divine love does not enter a soul trapped in survival mode. Read that again. For years, you were surviving emotionally. Surviving rejection. Surviving abandonment. Surviving manipulation. Surviving inconsistent love. Surviving people who only remembered your value after they hurt you. Your nervous system became addicted to unpredictability. You thought love was supposed to feel difficult. You thought emotional exhaustion meant passion. You thought chasing people proved loyalty. But the universe had to separate you from that illusion before your twin flame could truly align with your energy. And that is exactly why this season feels so strange. Because for the first time in your life, you are no longer emotionally starving. Have you noticed it? The people who used to trigger anxiety in you no longer control your emotions. The conversations that once kept you awake at night no longer consume your spirit. The need to explain yourself is fading. The urge to chase closure is disappearing. And deep down, even if you cannot explain it logically, you feel something coming. Not chaos. Not another karmic lesson. Not another painful cycle. Something sacred. Chosen one, many people think twin flame union begins with signs like repeating numbers, intense dreams, or sudden communication. But those are surface-level confirmations. The real beginning happens when your soul stops panicking. That is the hidden truth nobody talks about. Because panic and divine alignment cannot exist in the same energetic space. The old version of you was vibrating at the frequency of fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being chosen. Fear that you would never experience the love your soul secretly longed for. And because of that fear, you tolerated connections that slowly destroyed your spirit. You kept giving your energy to people who only came into your life to teach painful lessons. Some abandoned you when you needed them most. Some betrayed your trust. Some manipulated your empathy. Some made you feel invisible while demanding access to your heart. And the painful part is, you loved them anyway. Because chosen ones love deeply. You saw potential in people who could not even see value in themselves. You tried to heal people who were committed to remaining broken. You carried emotional weight that was never yours to carry. And after a while, your soul became exhausted. Not because you were weak. Because you were pouring divine energy into temporary people. But something changed recently, didn't it? You stopped begging for understanding. You stopped forcing conversations. You stopped trying to convince people to love you correctly. And suddenly peace entered your life. At first, it confused you. You wondered if you were becoming emotionally detached. You wondered if your heart was shutting down. You wondered why you suddenly preferred solitude over connection. But spiritually, something much deeper was happening. Your soul was finally exiting survival mode. And this is the exact stage where sacred union begins approaching. Because your twin flame is not meant to meet the version of you that constantly abandons yourself. For others, they are meant to meet the healed version, the aligned version, the version that no longer mistakes emotional chaos for destiny. Chosen one, listen carefully. The universe often removes emotional noise before divine connection arrives. Why? Because you cannot hear sacred guidance while drowning in karmic confusion. Think about the past few years of your life. How many times did you beg the universe for clarity while staying attached to people who kept hurting you? How many signs did you ignore because you were afraid of losing someone? How many red flags did you call potential? And how many times did your intuition warn you before the betrayal happened? Your spirit always knew. But trauma made you question your inner voice. That is why this new peace is so powerful. It means your intuition is becoming louder than your wounds. And once that happens, everything changes. Suddenly, you no longer feel desperate to be chosen. You no longer feel the need to compete for attention. You no longer measure your worth based on who stays or leaves. You begin realizing something life-changing. The right connection will never require you to betray yourself. That realization alone shifts your entire energy field. And when your energy changes, your relationships change. That is why some people suddenly disappeared from your life recently. Not because you failed, because your vibration changed. Some people were assigned to your pain, not your future. And the moment you stopped operating from emotional desperation, they lost energetic access to you. This is why many chosen ones experience intense isolation right before sacred union enters their reality. The isolation is not punishment. It is purification. The universe is clearing emotional interference. It is teaching you how to feel whole before divine love arrives. Because twin flame union is not about finding someone to complete you. It is about meeting someone who reflects the wholeness you finally discovered within yourself. That is the secret. And right now, whether you fully realize it or not, you are entering that frequency. Notice how your spirit no longer feels addicted to emotional chaos. Notice how your peace now matters more than temporary attention. Notice how certain people can no longer manipulate your emotions the way they once did. That is not weakness. That is spiritual elevation. Chosen one, there are people watching your transformation right now who secretly cannot understand why they no longer have power over you. They expected you to remain emotionally dependent. They expected you to keep chasing. They expected you to keep begging for crumbs of affection. But your soul outgrew survival. And once a chosen one discovers inner peace, everything changes, including the timing of sacred union. Because peace is not the absence of love. Peace is preparation for the highest form of it. And this may be the hardest truth you have ever needed to hear. Your twin flame was never delayed because you were unworthy. The union was delayed because your soul still needed to remember its value. But now, you are beginning to remember. And the spiritual realm responds immediately when a chosen one finally chooses inner alignment over emotional chaos. So if your life suddenly feels quieter, if your heart feels calmer, if you feel detached from people who once controlled your emotions, do not fear this season. This is not emptiness. This is the beginning. Because the moment a chosen one finds peace after years of suffering, the universe starts moving heaven and earth to align them with what was truly meant for them. Chosen one, nobody talks enough about the loneliness that comes with being spiritually different. People see your strength now. They see your wisdom now. They see your calmness now. But they did not see the nights you cried in silence because you felt completely misunderstood by the world around you. They did not see the emotional exhaustion, the betrayal trauma, The moments you questioned your own worth because the people you loved treated your heart like it was disposable. And the painful truth is, many of you were wounded long before romance ever entered your life. Some of you grew up feeling emotionally unseen. You were the child who felt everything deeply while everyone around you dismissed your emotions. You were the one who noticed tension in the room before anyone spoke. You sensed energy shifts. You absorbed pain that did not belong to you. And because of that sensitivity, people often misunderstood you. They called you too emotional, too quiet, too intense, too different. But they never realized your spirit was never designed for shallow connection. Chosen ones are born with a different emotional depth. That is why normal conversations often feel empty to you. That is why fake relationships drain you. That is why your soul constantly searches for something deeper, even when you cannot explain what it is. And unfortunately, this depth became the very thing toxic people tried to exploit. Because empathic souls attract wounded souls. You kept attracting people who needed healing, but refused transformation. People who loved your light, but secretly resented your power. People who wanted access to your energy without offering genuine love in return. And for years, you confused emotional suffering with spiritual purpose. You thought sacrificing yourself made you lovable. So you overgave, overexplained, overextended your heart. You stayed loyal to people who kept betraying you because your soul believed love meant endurance. But chosen one, hear this carefully. You were not abandoned because you lacked value. You were abandoned by people who lacked the capacity to honor your value. There is a difference. Some people entered your life only to benefit from your healing energy. They came during seasons when your spirit was vulnerable. And because your heart naturally sees potential in others, you ignored the warning signs. You ignored the inconsistency. Ignored the emotional manipulation. Ignored the half-love. Ignored the disrespect. Not because you were weak. Because your soul genuinely wanted to believe people could love as deeply as you do. But many could not. And that realization shattered you. Especially the betrayals that came from people you trusted most. Some of you were betrayed by partners who promised forever and disappeared when things became difficult. Some of you were betrayed by friends who secretly competed with you. Some of you were betrayed by family members who projected their pain onto your destiny. And what hurt the most was not just the betrayal itself. It was realizing you would never do to others what they did to you. That realization changes a person forever. Because chosen ones do not simply love from emotion. They love from the soul. And when a soul-driven person experiences repeated rejection, they begin questioning everything. Why do I always attract pain? Why do people misunderstand me? Why do I feel alone even when surrounded by others? Why does my heart feel connected to something I cannot yet see? Those questions followed you for years. Meanwhile, the world kept telling you to move on. Stop being sensitive. Stop overthinking. Lower your expectations. But your spirit refused to settle. Because deep down, your soul knew. The love you desired was real. You were never crazy for wanting depth. You were never unrealistic for wanting emotional safety. You were never asking for too much by wanting honesty, consistency, and spiritual connection. You were simply asking the wrong people. And the universe had to teach you that painfully. That is why isolation became part of your awakening journey. Not to punish you. To separate you from environments that kept damaging your spirit. At first, the isolation felt unbearable. You felt forgotten, disconnected, emotionally exhausted. You watched other people enter relationships while your own life felt delayed. You questioned why everyone else seemed able to experience love so easily while your journey felt filled with obstacles. But spiritually, something deeper was happening behind the scenes. The universe was pulling you away from false alignment. Because if you had received sacred union while still emotionally attached to toxic patterns, you would have sabotaged the connection from unhealed wounds. So instead, the universe allowed loneliness to reveal your unresolved pain. And that process changed you. The silence forced you to confront your fears. The separation forced you to rediscover your identity. The betrayal forced you to stop abandoning yourself. That is why many chosen ones eventually become emotionally detached from chaos. Not because they stop caring, because they finally understand the cost of giving their energy to the wrong people. And once that realization enters your spirit, your entire frequency changes. Suddenly, you begin craving peace more than attention. You begin protecting your energy instead of proving your worth. You begin recognizing manipulation faster. You begin walking away from connections that once would have destroyed you emotionally. That transformation is sacred, but people around you may not understand it. Some will accuse you of becoming cold. Others will say you changed. Some may even become angry because they can no longer access the emotional version of you they once controlled. But healing always disrupts unhealthy dynamics. Remember that. Your growth will offend people who benefited from your brokenness. And this is exactly why your isolation season was necessary. Because your soul needed space to hear itself again. For years, outside voices drowned out your intuition. You listened to people who did not understand your purpose. You accepted advice from emotionally unavailable individuals. You kept shrinking your spirit to make others comfortable. But isolation stripped away those distractions. And slowly, your inner voice returned. You started noticing things differently. You began sensing energy more clearly. You became uncomfortable around fake people. Your tolerance for emotional inconsistency disappeared. You stopped romanticizing red flags. You stopped begging for reciprocity. And perhaps most importantly, you stopped seeing loneliness as proof that you were unlovable. That shift is powerful. Because the moment a chosen one becomes comfortable alone, desperation loses its grip on them. And desperation is what karmic connections feed on. That is why many people disappear once you heal. They were connected to your wounds, not your destiny. The healed version of you vibrates differently. Your energy becomes calmer, clearer, more protected. And while this peace may feel unfamiliar now, it is preparing you for something your soul has waited a long time to experience. Real alignment. Not forced love. Not anxious attachment. Not one-sided connection. But a relationship that does not require you to betray yourself in order to keep it. That is what sacred union begins teaching long before the person physically arrives. It teaches self-respect first, because your twin flame is not entering your life to complete your emptiness. They are entering your life after you finally stop abandoning your own soul. Chosen one, this is why your pain was never meaningless. Every betrayal exposed what could not go with you into your next season. Every disappointment revealed where you were settling. Every period of isolation strengthened your spiritual discernment. And now, you are no longer the same person who once begged to be chosen. You are becoming someone who finally understands. The right love will recognize your soul without needing to be convinced. So if you have felt isolated lately, if your circle became smaller, if your spirit suddenly craves distance from noise and chaos, do not fear this season. Some of the greatest spiritual transformations happen in silence. Because isolation was never the end of your story. It was the place where the universe separated you from what hurt you, so you could finally align with what was truly meant for you. Chosen one, what if the delays in your love life were never punishment? What if every closed door, every painful ending, every unanswered prayer, every separation that shattered your heart, was actually protecting your destiny? Because the truth is, most chosen ones misunderstand the season before sacred union arrives. They think the silence means failure. They think the waiting means rejection. They think the loneliness means they are forgotten by the universe. But spiritually, something far more sacred is happening. You are being prepared. And preparation rarely feels comfortable. In fact, some of the most important spiritual transformations happen through endings that make absolutely no sense at the time. Think about your journey. How many times did you believe someone was the one, only for the connection to collapse unexpectedly? How many times did you try to force relationships that your intuition quietly warned you about? How many times did you hold on to people long after the universe was trying to remove them? At the time, those endings felt cruel. You cried. You questioned yourself. You begged the universe for answers. But now, looking back honestly, many of those people were never aligned with your future. They were lessons, mirrors, catalysts for awakening. Some were sent to expose your abandonment wounds. Some were sent to reveal your lack of boundaries. Some entered your life to show you how much pain you were willing to tolerate in the name of love. And painful as it sounds, the universe could not bring sacred union into your life until those patterns were healed. Because divine love cannot grow inside a soul still addicted to emotional survival. That is the hidden truth. Many chosen ones say they want sacred union. But energetically, they are still operating from fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. And fear attracts karmic cycles. That is why the universe often delays divine connections. Not to deny you love, but to teach you how to stop abandoning yourself for it. Chosen one, there was a version of you that would have destroyed your own destiny without realizing it. The old version of you chased unavailable people because inconsistency felt familiar. The old version ignored intuition because loneliness felt terrifying. The old version confused emotional intensity with soul connection. The old version accepted crumbs because deep down, you did not fully believe you deserved more. And because of those wounds, you kept attracting relationships that mirrored your inner instability. The universe saw this. Your spirit guides saw this. And even though your soul was longing for union, you first had to become emotionally safe for the love you were praying for. That is why so much fell apart. Not because you were cursed. Because your life was being spiritually reorganized. There are some connections the universe intentionally destroys because they would interfere with your highest timeline. Read that carefully. Some people were never removed to hurt you. They were removed because they would have delayed your destiny permanently. But while you were grieving those endings, it felt impossible to understand. Especially when you loved deeply. Especially when you gave everything you had emotionally. Especially when you stayed loyal to people who never truly valued your heart. You kept asking, why would the universe let me love someone so deeply just to lose them? But that question comes from human attachment. Spiritually, the connection was never meaningless. Every karmic relationship taught you something your soul needed to learn before sacred union could arrive. Some taught discernment. Some taught self-respect. Some taught emotional boundaries. Some taught you to stop confusing potential with reality. And perhaps the hardest lesson of all, some taught you that love without peace is not divine love. That lesson changes everything. Because once your soul truly understands that, you stop chasing chaos. You stop romanticizing suffering. You stop trying to save people who refuse to heal. You stop sacrificing your spirit for temporary connection. And that shift marks the beginning of energetic alignment. Chosen one, many people think twin flame union begins when two people meet physically. But spiritually, union begins much earlier. It begins the moment you stop betraying yourself. It begins when your soul finally says, I will no longer accept relationships that destroy my peace. That declaration changes your entire vibration. And once your vibration changes, the universe starts rearranging your reality. Suddenly, certain people disappear. Certain habits fall away. Certain environments become unbearable. You start outgrowing versions of yourself that once felt permanent. And this process can feel lonely because growth often requires separation before alignment. Imagine trying to build a sacred temple on unstable ground. It would collapse. That is exactly why your spiritual foundation had to be rebuilt first. The universe was not just preparing you to meet someone. It was preparing you to sustain divine love without self-sabotage. Because many people can attract love temporarily, but very few can maintain spiritually aligned love without healing their wounds first. That is why your preparation season became so intense. The emotional triggers, the isolation, the repeated endings, the sudden awakenings. None of it was random. You were being purified emotionally. Every heartbreak forced you to confront parts of yourself you avoided for years. The fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear that you were somehow too much or not enough. And slowly, through all the pain, your soul started changing. You became more discerning, more self-aware, more protective of your peace. The version of you watching this now is not the same version who entered those past relationships. You have evolved, even if you do not fully see it yet. Notice how your standards changed. Notice how quickly your intuition now detects inconsistency. Notice how emotionally draining people no longer feel attractive to your spirit. That is growth. That is preparation. And perhaps the biggest sign of all, you are no longer willing to lose yourself just to keep someone. That alone proves your soul has matured. Because sacred union requires emotional wholeness. Not perfection, not flawless healing, but enough self-awareness to recognize when love is aligned versus when it is destructive. Chosen one, this is why your current peace matters so much. It means your nervous system is no longer addicted to instability. And once emotional chaos stops feeling exciting, karmic cycles begin losing access to you. That is when divine alignment accelerates. You may not physically see the union yet, but spiritually the path is already opening. The people blocking your energy are falling away. The old emotional patterns are dissolving. The desperation is fading. And in its place, clarity is emerging. For the first time in a long time, your soul is beginning to trust divine timing instead of forcing outcomes. That trust is sacred, because forcing is fear. Alignment is surrender. And surrender is where miracles begin entering a chosen one's life. Not when they are obsessing. Not when they are chasing signs. Not when they are begging the universe to hurry. But when they finally become emotionally available for peace. That is the moment everything changes. Chosen one, if your life recently experienced unexpected endings, if people suddenly walked away, if relationships collapsed despite your efforts, do not immediately assume you lost something meant for you. Sometimes divine protection looks like painful separation first. Sometimes the universe removes counterfeit connections before authentic alignment can arrive. And sometimes the greatest blessing of your life begins with an ending you never wanted. Because sacred union is not built on desperation. It is built on alignment. And right now, whether you fully realize it or not, your soul is finally becoming ready for the love it once tried to seek in all the wrong places. Chosen one of the biggest signs your soul is entering alignment is this. You no longer feel the desperate need to be understood by everyone. And honestly, that shift can feel terrifying at first. Because for most of your life, you were emotionally conditioned to seek validation from people who could never truly see you. You wanted acknowledgement. You wanted reassurance. You wanted someone to finally say, "I understand your heart. I see your intentions. You are worthy of real love." So you spent years over-explaining yourself. You explained your pain, explained your loyalty, explained your silence, explained your boundaries, explained your sensitivity. You kept trying to make people understand a soul they never had the emotional depth to comprehend. And every time they misunderstood you, a part of you questioned your own value. That is what emotional invalidation does to chosen ones. It slowly teaches them to seek external confirmation for truths they already feel internally. But something changed recently. You got tired. Not physically. Spiritually tired. Tired of proving your worth. Tired of convincing people to love you correctly. Tired of chasing emotional reciprocity from unavailable individuals. And without even realizing it, your soul began withdrawing its energy from external validation. That withdrawal is sacred. Because the moment a chosen one stops seeking permission to exist authentically, their vibration changes dramatically. At first, it feels unfamiliar. You start noticing that you no longer react the same way to rejection. People who once had emotional control over you suddenly lose influence. Certain conversations feel meaningless. Attention no longer excites you the way it once did. And perhaps the strangest part of all, you begin feeling peaceful without needing constant emotional reassurance. That is not emotional numbness. That is healing. For years, your nervous system was trapped in survival patterns. You associated love with anxiety, connection with uncertainty, affection with inconsistency. So when peace finally enters your spirit, it almost feels unnatural. Some chosen ones even sabotage this phase because calmness feels boring compared to the emotional chaos they became accustomed to. But hear this carefully. Chaos is not chemistry. Emotional instability is not destiny. And anxiety is not proof of love. Many of your past relationships trained your body to confuse emotional turbulence with passion. That is why unhealthy connections felt addictive. The highs were intense. The lows were devastating. And your spirit became trapped in cycles of emotional unpredictability. But divine alignment feels different. It does not constantly threaten your nervous system. It does not force you to chase. It does not make you question your worth every day. Instead, it brings clarity. And clarity is exactly what is beginning to happen inside you now. Notice how your priorities are changing. You crave solitude more than attention. You protect your energy more carefully. You no longer feel impressed by superficial charm. You can sense emotional inconsistency almost immediately. That heightened discernment is not accidental. Your soul is evolving beyond survival-based attachment. And because of that evolution, your spirit is becoming incompatible with karmic energy. This is why some people suddenly pull away from you. Not because you became hard to love. Because your healing removed the emotional wounds they once used to access you. There are people who only felt connected to the unhealed version of you. The version that tolerated disrespect. The version that begged for clarity. The version that constantly overgave to keep relationships alive. But now, you are changing. You no longer chase what drains you. You no longer ignore your intuition for temporary comfort. You no longer shrink yourself to maintain connection. And some people cannot emotionally survive your transformation because your growth forces them to confront their own lack of healing. That is why healing can feel lonely. Not everyone can accompany you into your next frequency. Chosen one, many people around you may misinterpret your peace. Some will call you detached. Others will say you became distant. Some may even accuse you of changing too much. But spiritually, what is actually happening is this. You are returning to yourself. For years, you abandoned your own intuition to preserve unhealthy relationships. You ignored red flags, ignored exhaustion, ignored emotional imbalance. Why? Because you feared losing people. But eventually your soul became more afraid of losing itself. That is the turning point. The moment self-abandonment becomes more painful than loneliness, healing accelerates rapidly. And once healing accelerates, external validation begins losing power over you. You stop measuring your worth through responses, attention, or approval. You begin realizing something life-changing. People misunderstanding you does not erase your truth. That realization frees your spirit. Because chosen ones waste years trying to make emotionally unavailable people recognize their value. But true alignment begins when you no longer need external confirmation to honor your own soul. And ironically, that is often the exact moment sacred union starts approaching. Why? Because divine love cannot fully enter the life of someone still emotionally addicted to validation. If your self-worth depends on external attention, you become vulnerable to manipulation. You tolerate inconsistency because you fear abandonment. You overcompromise because you fear rejection. You silence your intuition because you fear being alone. But once your validation comes from inner alignment instead of outside approval, your entire energetic field changes. You become calmer, more magnetic, more emotionally grounded. And suddenly, you stop attracting the same painful cycles. Not because you became perfect, because you stopped vibrating at the frequency of desperation. That is powerful. Chosen one, there is a reason your spirit feels quieter lately. You are no longer energetically available for chaos. That means the old version of you is dying. The version that constantly checked messages hoping for reassurance. The version that overanalyzed silence. The version that confused attention with love. That identity is dissolving now. And yes, spiritual transformation can feel uncomfortable while it is happening. Because healing often feels like losing emotional attachment before gaining inner peace. There may be moments where you question yourself. Moments where you wonder, why do I suddenly feel disconnected from everyone? Why does attention no longer satisfy me? Why do I feel emotionally distant from people I once cared deeply about? The answer is simple. Your soul is outgrowing survival-based connection. And once that process begins, your spirit naturally starts craving authenticity over attachment. That is why your standards are rising. That is why shallow relationships feel unbearable now. That is why peace suddenly matters more than passion fueled by confusion. You are evolving emotionally. And evolution changes attraction. The healed version of you cannot emotionally attach to what once satisfied the wounded version. That is why your energy now feels different even to others. People sense it. Some are drawn toward it. Others feel uncomfortable around it. Some may even try to pull you back into old emotional patterns because your healing threatens familiar dynamics. But chosen one, do not shrink to preserve outdated connections. Your peace costs too much to obtain. Remember all the nights you cried trying to hold yourself together. Remember the betrayals you survived. Remember how many times you rebuilt your spirit from emotional devastation. You did not endure all of that just to return to emotional chaos again. Your soul deserves alignment now. And this new season is teaching you something sacred. Love should not require self-abandonment. Read that again. Real love does not demand that you betray your peace in order to maintain connection. Real love does not manipulate your nervous system. It does not keep you emotionally starving. It does not punish your authenticity. Divine connection brings expansion, not constant emotional confusion. That is why your spirit is becoming calmer before sacred union arrives. Because peace is preparation. The universe is teaching your nervous system how to recognize healthy love instead of addictive attachment. And that lesson changes everything. So if you no longer crave constant validation, if attention suddenly feels empty, if your soul feels more connected to peace than emotional chaos, do not fear this transformation. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming aligned. And the moment a chosen one becomes emotionally whole enough to stop begging for love, they become energetically ready to receive the kind of connection their soul has been praying for all along. Chosen one, there is something your soul is finally beginning to understand. The delay was never punishment. It was protection. For so long, you interpreted waiting as rejection. Every unanswered prayer made you wonder if the universe forgot about you. Every failed relationship made you question whether divine love was even real. Every season of loneliness felt like evidence that everyone else was chosen except you. But spiritually, the opposite was happening. You were being preserved for alignment. Because sacred union is not an ordinary relationship. It is not built through obsession. It is not sustained through trauma bonding. And it cannot survive inside emotional chaos. That is why your journey became so intense before this new season began. The universe was not simply preparing you to meet someone. It was preparing your entire soul to experience a different frequency of love. And frequencies matter. Because you cannot attract peace while emotionally addicted to dysfunction. You cannot maintain divine connection while secretly believing you are unworthy of it. You cannot recognize aligned love while still chasing people who drain your spirit. So before sacred union could manifest externally, something had to transform internally first. That transformation was painful. It forced you to release attachments you thought would last forever. It forced you to confront wounds you spent years hiding. It forced you to stop romanticizing emotional suffering. And perhaps most painfully of all, it forced you to sit alone with yourself. Chosen one, solitude changes people. Especially spiritual solitude. Because silence exposes everything. It exposes the parts of you that still seek validation. The fears you hide beneath independence. The emotional patterns you inherited from painful experiences. The ways you abandoned yourself to avoid rejection. At first, this process felt unbearable. You wanted distraction. You wanted reassurance. You wanted someone to come save you from the emotional emptiness you carried. But eventually, something shifted. Instead of running from yourself, you started listening to yourself. And that changed everything. You began recognizing how exhausted your soul truly was. Exhausted from chasing unavailable people. Exhausted from proving your worth. Exhausted from carrying relationships alone. Exhausted from constantly trying to earn love that should have been freely given. And in that exhaustion, a sacred awakening occurred. You realized, love should not feel like survival. That realization marks the beginning of true spiritual alignment. Because once your soul understands that peace matters more than attachment, karmic cycles begin losing power over you. And this is exactly why your energy feels different now. You're no longer vibrating from desperation. You are vibrating from surrender. That difference changes your entire reality. The old version of you chased outcomes. The healed version trusts divine timing. The old version begged for clarity. The healed version observes energy calmly. The old version feared being alone. The healed version understands solitude can be sacred preparation. And spiritually, this evolution is significant. Because your twin flame journey was never only about romance. It was about awakening. The relationship itself is merely the reflection of a deeper transformation happening within your soul. Many people misunderstand sacred union because they focus only on physical reunion. But the true miracle is who you become before the reunion happens. You become more self-aware, more discerning, more emotionally grounded. You stop settling for inconsistent energy. You stop confusing attraction with alignment. You stop abandoning your intuition to maintain temporary connection. That is spiritual maturity. And once emotional maturity enters the journey, divine timing accelerates rapidly. Because the universe no longer needs to delay your lessons. You finally understand them. Chosen one, this is why so many signs may suddenly be appearing around you lately. Not because the universe is teasing you. Because your spirit is becoming receptive. Have you noticed the strange synchronicities? Repeating numbers. Unexpected dreams. Sudden feelings of familiarity. Random emotional waves that seem connected to someone you have not even met yet. These experiences are not always imagination. Sometimes your soul recognizes alignment before your physical reality catches up. That is why many chosen ones feel an unexplained inner certainty during this stage. It is not obsession. It is energetic recognition. Your spirit senses that a major shift is approaching. And strangely enough, that certainty usually appears when you finally stop chasing. That is the paradox of sacred union. The moment you release desperation, alignment enters. Why? Because fear blocks reception. Think about it. When your mind was consumed by anxiety, you could not hear your intuition clearly. When your emotions revolved around chasing unavailable people, your energy stayed trapped in survival mode. When your worth depended on external validation, your spirit remained vulnerable to karmic manipulation. But peace changed that. Peace created space. And within that space, your soul began realigning with its true frequency. Chosen one of the clearest signs your sacred union is approaching is this. You no longer feel emotionally addicted to the outcome. Yes, you still desire love. Yes, your soul still longs for deep connection. But the desperation is fading. You no longer feel like your happiness depends on another person choosing you. That energetic shift is massive. Because divine love enters more easily when attachment loosens its grip. The universe often waits until your peace becomes stronger than your fear. And many of you are entering that exact stage right now. Notice how your intuition feels sharper lately. Notice how emotionally draining environments suddenly feel unbearable. Notice how your soul craves authenticity over excitement. That is alignment. And alignment naturally pulls you closer to people operating at similar frequencies. This is why many chosen ones unexpectedly meet important soul connections during periods when they least expect it. Not when they are obsessing, not when they are desperately searching, but when they are finally living in energetic authenticity. One conversation, one unexpected encounter, one divine redirection. That is all it takes for destiny to shift suddenly. And the spiritual realm knows this. There are unseen forces aligning events behind the scenes right now that your human mind cannot fully comprehend yet. People crossing paths at the perfect moment. Old cycles ending quietly. New opportunities emerging unexpectedly. What feels like coincidence is often divine orchestration. That is why your current peace matters so much. Your calmness is not emptiness. It is evidence that your soul is no longer resisting divine timing. And surrender opens doors force could never unlock. Chosen one, hear this carefully. You were never forgotten. Even during the years you cried yourself to sleep. Even during the betrayals. Even during the loneliness. Even during the moments you questioned your worth. The universe was still guiding your path. Some delays protected you from connections that would have destroyed your spirit. Some endings redirected you toward your true timeline. Some painful separations prevented permanent misalignment. And one day, you will look back and realize, the love that stayed away was not punishment. It was preparation. Because sacred union is not meant to arrive while you are emotionally starving. It arrives when your soul finally remembers its own value. That is why your peace is the first sign. Not the dreams. Not the numbers. Not the synchronicities. Those are confirmations. But peace? Peace is transformation. It means your spirit is no longer begging life to prove your worth. It means your soul finally understands. What is meant for you will not require self-betrayal to receive it. And that realization changes your entire destiny. So if your life feels quieter lately, if your spirit feels calmer, if your attachment to old pain is slowly dissolving, do not mistake this season for emptiness. This is the sacred space where divine alignment begins entering your reality. And somewhere beyond what your eyes can currently see, the universe is already moving your sacred union closer toward you. Chosen one of the greatest illusions you were ever taught about love is this. That intensity means alignment. For years, you believed love had to feel overwhelming to be real. You believed sleepless nights meant passion. You believed emotional chaos meant deep connection. You believed constantly thinking about someone meant destiny. But what if many of those feelings were not divine love at all? What if they were wounds? What if the anxiety, the obsession, the emotional addiction, the fear of losing someone, were actually symptoms of unhealed pain rather than spiritual alignment? Because the truth is, obsession and peace cannot exist in the same energetic space. Read that carefully. Obsessive attachment comes from fear. Peace comes from trust. Fear says, what if they leave me? What if I am not enough? What if I lose this connection? But peace says, what is meant for me will not require me to destroy myself to keep it. That is the frequency your soul is beginning to enter now. And honestly, this shift changes everything. Chosen one, many of you spent years trapped in emotional survival mode without even realizing it. You became addicted to emotional unpredictability because your nervous system associated inconsistency with love. When someone gave mixed signals, you chased harder. When someone became distant, your attachment deepened. When affection was inconsistent, you interpreted it as emotional intensity. Why? Because wounded hearts often mistake instability for passion. That is why karmic relationships feel so consuming. They activate unresolved abandonment wounds. They trigger fear-based attachment patterns. They keep your nervous system trapped between hope and disappointment. And spiritually, this creates energetic confusion. You cannot clearly hear divine guidance while emotionally addicted to chaos. That is why the universe had to separate you from certain people. Not because you were unlovable. Because your soul needed to experience the difference between trauma attachment and sacred alignment. And now, you're finally beginning to feel that difference. Notice how calmness no longer scares you the way it once did. Notice how your spirit now values consistency over excitement. Notice how emotionally unavailable people suddenly feel exhausting instead of attractive. That is not coincidence. That is healing. The old version of you was magnetized toward emotional turbulence because chaos felt familiar. But your frequency is changing now. And when frequency changes, attraction changes. The healed version of you no longer romanticizes suffering. You stop chasing unavailable people. You stop forcing conversations. You stop trying to earn love through self-sacrifice. Why? Because peace becomes more important than emotional stimulation. That realization is sacred. Chosen one, there is a reason your soul feels quieter lately. Your spirit is leaving survival mode. And when a person leaves survival mode emotionally, they begin recognizing truths they previously ignored. You begin realizing, not every intense connection is divine. Not every emotional pull is destiny. Not every person who awakens your wounds is your soulmate. Some people trigger your trauma, not your purpose. That distinction is life-changing. Because many chosen ones spent years confusing emotional suffering with spiritual depth. You thought the pain meant the connection was special. You thought the anxiety meant the bond was powerful. You thought the emotional roller coaster proved the relationship mattered deeply. But divine love does not constantly destabilize your spirit. Yes, sacred union can trigger transformation. Yes, twin flame connections can awaken buried wounds. But authentic spiritual alignment ultimately leads toward clarity, not chronic emotional destruction. And that is exactly why your current peace matters so much. Your calmness is evidence that your soul is no longer addicted to confusion. That means your discernment is strengthening. You are beginning to recognize energy instead of appearances. And spiritually, that changes the people you attract. Because healed people operate differently. They do not chase what runs from them. They do not beg for consistency. They do not sacrifice their peace for temporary emotional highs. Instead, they observe. They listen to intuition. They trust energy. They allow alignment to reveal itself naturally. That is the frequency your soul is learning now. At first, this transformation can feel uncomfortable. Why? Because when you stop operating from emotional addiction, life suddenly becomes quieter. No more constant overthinking. No more emotional panic every time someone pulls away. No more obsessive attachment to outcomes. And for someone whose nervous system spent years addicted to emotional stimulation, peace can initially feel empty. Some chosen ones even mistake healing for emotional numbness. But hear this carefully. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is regulation. Your nervous system is finally learning safety. And safety changes how you experience love. The old version of you believed love had to be earned through suffering. The healed version understands aligned love flows naturally. The old version chased validation. The healed version attracts resonance. The old version feared silence. The healed version finds clarity within it. That evolution is spiritual elevation. Chosen one, people around you may not understand this transformation. Some may say you became emotionally detached. Others may accuse you of becoming too guarded. Some may even try to pull you back into emotional chaos because your peace exposes their instability. But remember, people who thrive in dysfunction often feel uncomfortable around healed energy. Why? Because healed energy cannot be manipulated as easily. The peaceful version of you sees red flags faster. The peaceful version no longer reacts impulsively. The peaceful version values emotional consistency more than chemistry built on confusion. That makes you spiritually protected. And protection changes your entire reality. You begin naturally distancing yourself from draining environments. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your tolerance for dishonesty disappears. Even your body begins rejecting misaligned energy. Conversations that once entertained you now feel exhausting. People who once attracted you now feel emotionally heavy. Situations you once tolerated now disturb your spirit deeply. That is not negativity. That is energetic refinement. Your soul is becoming more selective because your frequency is rising. And rising frequencies naturally separate from lower energetic patterns. That is why many chosen ones lose relationships during this stage. Not everyone can follow you into alignment. Some people were assigned to your healing journey, not your final destination. And while losing connections can feel painful initially, spiritually it creates space for something greater. Because peace is magnetic. Read that again. Peace is magnetic. Not desperation. Not obsession. Not emotional chasing. True magnetism comes from energetic wholeness. When your soul stops begging for love externally, your energy becomes incredibly powerful. Why? Because you are no longer radiating lack. You are radiating alignment. And alignment naturally attracts people operating at similar frequencies. This is why many chosen ones suddenly experience unexpected shifts once they fully surrender. Attachment. New opportunities appear. New people enter unexpectedly. Old cycles collapse rapidly. Divine timing accelerates. Because the universe responds differently to grounded energy than desperate energy. Desperation repels. Peace attracts. That is the hidden spiritual law most people never understand. The more attached you are to forcing outcomes, the more blocked your energy becomes. But when you trust divine timing, when you honor your peace, when you stop abandoning yourself for emotional validation, your spirit becomes receptive. And receptivity is where miracles begin. Chosen one, this is why your current season matters so much. You are no longer emotionally starving. That means your choices are becoming clearer. You no longer confuse attention with love. You no longer mistake chemistry for compatibility. You no longer tolerate emotional inconsistency simply because you fear being alone. And this shift is preparing you for sacred union in ways you cannot fully see yet. Because divine love enters differently than karmic attachment. Karmic connections activate fear. Sacred connections activate peace. Karmic energy creates emotional confusion. Sacred alignment creates inner clarity. Karmic relationships make you abandon yourself to maintain connection. Sacred relationships inspire deeper self-respect. That is the difference your soul is finally learning. And once you truly experience inner peace after years of emotional chaos, your entire destiny changes. Because the universe can trust a peaceful soul with greater alignment. Not because peaceful people are perfect, but because they no longer seek love from desperation. They choose connection from wholeness. And wholeness is the vibration where sacred union becomes possible. So if your spirit suddenly feels calmer lately, if emotional chaos no longer attracts you, if you feel detached from relationships built on confusion and inconsistency, do not fear this transformation. You are not losing your ability to love deeply. You are finally learning the difference between addictive attachment and divine alignment. And the moment a chosen one truly understands that difference, their soul becomes magnetically aligned with the love they were always meant to receive. Chosen one, have you noticed how certain people started acting differently toward you the moment you found peace? Some became distant. Some suddenly disappeared. Some tried harder to provoke you. Some even became angry when you stopped reacting the way you used to. And at first, this confused you. Because you were not attacking anyone. You were not creating drama. You were simply healing. But spiritually, your healing changed the entire energetic dynamic. Because the moment a chosen one stops operating from wounds, Toxic people lose access to the version of them they once controlled. Read that carefully. Some people were never connected to your authentic soul. They were connected to your trauma responses. They were connected to the version of you that overexplained. The version that tolerated disrespect. The version that chased closure. The version that feared abandonment so deeply that you kept accepting less than you deserved. But now, that version is disappearing. And not everyone benefits from your healing. Chosen one, this is one of the hardest truths about spiritual awakening. Your growth will expose relationships that were only surviving because you were emotionally unhealed. Some people relied on your low self-worth. Some relied on your emotional dependency. Some relied on your fear of losing them. That is why your transformation unsettles certain individuals. Because your peace removed their power. The healed version of you no longer reacts impulsively. No longer begs for validation. No longer collapses emotionally every time someone withdraws affection. And for people who were accustomed to controlling you emotionally, that change feels threatening. This is why spiritual elevation often creates energetic separation before sacred union arrives. The universe begins removing people who are incompatible with your next frequency. At first, this separation can feel painful. You may grieve friendships. Relationships may suddenly feel distant. Conversations that once felt exciting now feel draining. You may even wonder, why do I suddenly feel disconnected from everyone? But spiritually, you are not disconnecting from love. You are disconnecting from misalignment. There is a difference. Chosen one, many of the people who entered your life during your wounded seasons were attracted to your light, but incapable of reciprocating your depth. They admired your empathy, admired your loyalty, admired your emotional openness. But instead of honoring your spirit, they consumed your energy. Some intentionally manipulated your kindness. Others unconsciously projected their unresolved pain onto you. And because your soul naturally saw potential in people, you kept trying to save connections that were slowly draining you. But healing changes perception. The moment your intuition becomes stronger than your loneliness, everything shifts. Suddenly, you recognize patterns faster. You notice manipulation immediately. You sense emotional inconsistency quickly. You stop making excuses for behaviors that once devastated your spirit. And perhaps most importantly, you stop confusing attachment with alignment. That is when toxic energy begins losing access to you. Because unhealthy dynamics survive through emotional reactions. Think about it. Manipulative people often rely on confusion, on inconsistency, on emotional unpredictability. Why? Because emotional instability creates energetic dependency. The more anxious you become, the easier it is to control your emotions. But peace disrupts that cycle. A peaceful person becomes difficult to manipulate. They observe instead of reacting. They detach instead of begging. They trust intuition instead of chasing reassurance. That energy is powerful. And spiritually, it creates protection. Chosen one, there are people from your past who can feel your energetic shift right now, even if you never speak. To them again, energy speaks louder than words. Some may suddenly reappear. Some may attempt to regain access to your attention. Some may test your boundaries to see if the old version of you still exists. But this is where discernment becomes essential. Not every return is alignment. Sometimes people come back because your energy changed, not because they changed. That is an important distinction. The healed version of you must learn to recognize the difference between genuine transformation and familiar patterns wearing new masks. Because once your vibration rises, you naturally become more magnetic. People notice your calmness, your confidence, your emotional groundedness. But magnetism without discernment can reopen old karmic cycles. That is why your peace must remain protected. Chosen one of the greatest signs that sacred union is approaching is this. Your soul no longer tolerates emotional chaos the way it once did. Drama exhausts you now. Mind games repel you. Surface-level relationships feel empty. And while some people may interpret this as emotional coldness, spiritually it is actually emotional refinement. Your soul is becoming more selective because your destiny requires higher alignment. Remember, the universe cannot bring divine connection into a life still overcrowded with draining energy. So before sacred union manifests physically, energetic clearing must happen first. That clearing often looks like separation. Relationships fading naturally, old emotional attachments dissolving, sudden clarity about people you once idealized. And yes, this process can feel lonely, because when your soul outgrows certain frequencies, there may be periods where very few people truly resonate with you anymore. But loneliness during transformation is temporary. Misalignment would have been permanent suffering. Chosen one, there is also a spiritual warfare aspect to this journey many people ignore. Not everyone wants to see you healed. Not everyone wants to see you aligned. Why? Because healed chosen ones become powerful. A healed chosen one cannot be emotionally manipulated easily, cannot be controlled through fear, cannot be distracted by constant chaos. And spiritually, that level of inner peace threatens lower vibrations. People who operate through manipulation often become uncomfortable around healed energy because your calmness exposes their instability. Your boundaries expose their lack of discipline. Your self-respect exposes their emotional immaturity. Your peace reminds them of the healing they avoid within themselves. That is why some people attack what they secretly admire. But do not take it personally. Their reaction is not proof that your transformation is wrong. It is proof your energy changed. And energy always reveals truth over time. Chosen one, this is why you must stop mourning certain endings. Some people were removed because they could not follow you into your next season. You kept asking the universe, why did this relationship collapse? Why did this person leave? Why did everything suddenly change? But now you are beginning to understand. Not every connection was meant to continue forever. Some people were only assigned to awaken you. Some were assigned to reveal your wounds. Some were assigned to push you toward healing through heartbreak. And once their spiritual assignment ended, the connection naturally dissolved. That is not failure. That is divine redirection. Because sacred union requires energetic space. The universe cannot fill hands that are still gripping expired connections. That is why detachment became necessary. Not to make you emotionless, but to make you available for alignment. And perhaps the most powerful transformation of all is this. You no longer need people to stay in order to feel worthy. That is freedom. The old version of you feared abandonment constantly. The healed version understands. What is truly aligned will not require fear to maintain it. That realization changes your entire energetic field. Suddenly you stop forcing. Stop chasing. Stop overcompensating. You become calmer, clearer, more spiritually protected. And protection matters deeply before sacred union arrives. Because your future connection cannot thrive in an environment filled with unresolved karmic interference. So yes, some people had to leave. Some attachments had to break. Some illusions had to collapse. Not because your life was falling apart, because your soul was finally clearing space for something higher. Chosen one, if people suddenly lost access to you recently, if relationships started fading, if your spirit feels increasingly detached from drama and emotional confusion, do not fear this shift. You are not losing love. You are losing energetic interference. And the moment interference disappears, divine alignment begins moving toward you faster than ever before. Because the healed version of you no longer belongs to the frequencies that once kept your soul trapped in emotional survival. You belong to peace now. And peace changes who can access your energy forever. Chosen one, there is a reason your spirit feels different lately. A reason the old emotional chaos no longer satisfies you. A reason your soul suddenly craves peace more than attention. A reason your intuition keeps whispering that something important is approaching. Because spiritually, You are standing at the edge of a major shift. And even though your physical eyes cannot fully see it yet, your soul already senses the change before it arrives. That is why this season feels so strange. Part of you feels calm. Part of you feels uncertain. Part of you feels detached from the past. And another part of you feels like your life is quietly preparing for something sacred. That feeling is not random. Chosen one, many people expect destiny to arrive dramatically. They think sacred union will appear with immediate certainty, perfect timing, and obvious signs. But often, divine alignment approaches quietly first, through subtle inner shifts, through intuition, through unexpected emotional clarity. And strangely enough, it usually happens after you stop forcing it. That is the paradox most people never understand. The more you chase alignment from fear, the more blocked your energy becomes. But when you surrender attachment and focus on inner peace, your soul becomes magnetically receptive. That is the stage you are entering now. The old version of you searched desperately for love externally. The healed version is finally becoming aligned internally. And alignment changes timing. Chosen one, hear this carefully. Your sacred union was never canceled. It was delayed until your soul could recognize it without sabotaging it. Because years ago, if this connection had entered your life, your wounds would have distorted it. You would have overanalyzed it, feared losing it, attached from insecurity, mistaken anxiety for passion, possibly even pushed it away unintentionally because your nervous system still believed love required suffering. But now, something inside you has changed. You are calmer, more self-aware, more emotionally grounded. And because of that, your energy is becoming compatible with the kind of love your soul has always desired. That compatibility matters deeply, because not every person can sustain sacred union energy. Many people want divine love emotionally, while remaining energetically attached to chaos. But you are beginning to outgrow chaos, and the universe responds quickly when a chosen one reaches that level of alignment. This is why unexpected movement often begins during periods of surrender. A random encounter, an unexpected message, a sudden opportunity, a strange coincidence that later changes everything. Destiny rarely announces itself loudly at first. Sometimes it enters quietly, then transforms your entire life. Chosen one, think about how many times your life changed unexpectedly before. One conversation altered your perspective forever. One betrayal redirected your spiritual path. One painful ending awakened your soul. Now imagine what one aligned connection could do. Because sacred union is not just romance. It is energetic recognition. It is meeting someone whose presence feels familiar to your soul in ways logic cannot fully explain. And often, right before this alignment appears, chosen ones experience a powerful season of emotional detachment. Why? Because the universe is clearing your energy field. Old attachments lose their grip. Past heartbreaks stop controlling your emotions. The need for validation fades. It may feel like emptiness temporarily, but spiritually it is preparation. You are making space emotionally. And space is necessary for new alignment to enter. Think about it this way. A soul overcrowded with unresolved attachments cannot fully receive what is divinely aligned. That is why so many people from your past had to fade away. Not because your story was ending. Because your next chapter required a different frequency. Chosen one, there are unseen shifts happening behind the scenes of your life right now. Even if nothing dramatic appears externally yet, energetically the movement has already started. Some of you may feel this through dreams, others through synchronicities, others through sudden inner knowing that cannot be logically explained. And perhaps the strangest part is this. You may no longer feel desperate for the union the way you once did. That is actually one of the strongest signs. Because desperation blocks reception. Peace opens it. The universe often waits until your soul can desire love without emotionally collapsing in its absence. That is maturity. That is energetic readiness. The old version of you needed love to feel complete. The healed version understands love is an addition to wholeness, not a replacement for it. That realization changes everything. Suddenly, your energy becomes lighter, more magnetic, more authentic. You stop forcing conversations. Stop chasing unavailable people. Stop interpreting every silence as rejection. Instead, you trust. And trust is spiritually powerful. Because trust tells the universe, I no longer need to control the timing to believe what is meant for me exists. That surrender creates alignment faster than obsession ever could. Chosen one, some of you are closer to sacred union than you realize. But because you expected dramatic external signs, you overlooked the internal transformation happening first. Your peace is the sign. Your emotional stability is the sign. Your detachment from chaos is the sign. Why? Because divine love enters differently than karmic attachment. Karmic energy creates confusion. Sacred energy creates clarity. Karmic relationships drain your spirit. Sacred alignment strengthens it. Karmic cycles activate fear of loss. Sacred connections inspire inner security. And your soul is beginning to recognize that difference now. This is why your intuition feels stronger lately. You are becoming more sensitive to authentic energy. You can now sense when something is forced. You can feel emotional inconsistency faster. You notice when conversations lack genuine depth. That discernment is preparing you for recognition. Because sacred union is not just about attraction. It is about resonance. Your soul will recognize peace before your mind fully understands it. And that recognition may arrive unexpectedly. Not necessarily through grand gestures. Sometimes through simplicity. A conversation that feels effortless. A presence that feels safe. An energy that calms your nervous system instead of activating fear. That is important. Because many chosen ones were conditioned to believe intensity equals love. But true alignment often feels grounding instead of chaotic. It feels safe instead of addictive. Clear instead of confusing. Steady instead of unstable. At first, this kind of connection may even feel unfamiliar because your nervous system spent years adapting to emotional unpredictability. But spiritually, your soul will know. It will recognize the absence of fear. Chosen one, this is why your current season matters so much. You are no longer preparing for temporary attachment. You are preparing for aligned connection. An aligned connection requires emotional space, spiritual maturity, and inner peace. All the lessons, all the endings, all the isolation, none of it was meaningless. Everything was shaping your spirit into someone capable of receiving love without losing yourself. Inside it, that is sacred transformation. And the beautiful part is this. You no longer need to chase what is divinely aligned. What is aligned will naturally move toward you as your frequency rises. That is why forcing suddenly feels exhausting to your soul. Because your spirit is learning the difference between control and surrender. And surrender is where miracles begin. Chosen one, if you feel like something is approaching lately, if your intuition keeps telling you your life is shifting, if your spirit feels strangely peaceful despite not having all the answers yet, trust that feeling. Your soul recognizes movement before your physical reality catches up. You are not imagining the shift. You are sensing alignment. And somewhere beyond what you can currently see, the universe is already arranging the encounters, conversations, timing, and circumstances that will eventually reveal why this entire journey had to unfold exactly the way it did. Because your sacred union is not as far away as your fear once convinced you it was. It is approaching through alignment. And for the first time in a long time, your soul is finally ready to receive it without abandoning itself in the process. Chosen one, after everything you have survived, there is one truth your soul must finally accept. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Every betrayal, every delay, every sleepless night, every painful ending that made you question your worth, none of it was meaningless. Even the moments that nearly broke you emotionally were shaping your spirit for the life you are now entering. And perhaps the greatest transformation of all is this. You are no longer the same person who began this journey. Think about who you used to be. You once chased people who gave you the bare minimum. You once over-explained your heart to people committed to misunderstanding you. You once tolerated emotional inconsistency because you feared being abandoned. You once confused suffering with love because pain had become familiar to your nervous system. But now, something inside you has changed permanently. You are calmer, more discerning, more connected to your intuition, more protective of your peace. And while the old version of you might have called this giving up, the healed version understands it as awakening. Chosen one, there is a sacred moment every spiritually evolving soul eventually reaches. A moment where they stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift changes everything. Because victims search for rescue. Awakened souls search for alignment. And your soul is aligning now in ways you cannot fully see yet. Yes, there were moments you felt forgotten. Moments where you watched other people experience love while your own path felt delayed. Moments where loneliness became so heavy that you wondered if the universe had abandoned you. Completely. But spiritually, you were never abandoned. You were being separated from what could not go where you are going. That is why certain relationships collapsed. That is why certain people disappeared. That is why your spirit eventually became exhausted from forcing connections that lacked reciprocity. The universe was not trying to deprive you of love. It was teaching you not to settle for counterfeit versions of it. And that lesson required transformation. Chosen one, hear this carefully. You had to lose attachment to emotional chaos before you could recognize divine peace. Read that again. For years, your nervous system was conditioned to expect instability. You expected delayed replies, mixed signals, emotional confusion, moments of affection followed by distance. And because those patterns became familiar, calmness initially felt uncomfortable. But now your soul understands something profound. Real love does not require constant emotional suffering to prove its existence. That realization is sacred. Because once a chosen one truly understands this, their entire energetic frequency changes. No more begging. No more chasing. No more sacrificing self-respect to maintain temporary connection. Instead, peace enters. And peace is not weakness. Peace is power under spiritual control. The peaceful version of you is far more powerful than the wounded version ever was. Why? Because wounded people react impulsively. Peaceful people move with discernment. Wounded people chase validation. Peaceful people trust alignment. Wounded people fear losing others. Peaceful people fear losing themselves. That evolution is spiritual maturity. And spiritually mature souls attract differently. That is why your life feels quieter now. Not because nothing is happening. Because the universe is no longer communicating with you through chaos. It is communicating through alignment. Through intuition. Through inner knowing. Through emotional clarity. And yes, there may still be moments where fear returns temporarily. Moments where loneliness whispers old insecurities. Moments where your mind questions divine timing. Moments where you wonder if sacred union will truly arrive. But even in those moments, your soul feels different now. Because deep down, you are no longer operating from desperation. You are operating from trust. That trust changes your reality more than you realize. Chosen one, there are unseen shifts happening around you at this very moment. Conversations being aligned. Paths crossing invisibly. Divine timing moving pieces into place beyond what your physical eyes can currently understand. And one day, when the timing fully unfolds, you will realize something incredible. The delays protected you. If certain relationships had lasted longer, they would have destroyed your peace. If certain doors had opened earlier, you would have entered them emotionally unprepared. If sacred union had arrived before your healing began, Your wounds may have sabotaged the very connection your soul desired most. Now you understand why timing mattered. Because divine love is not only about meeting the right person. It is about becoming the version of yourself capable of receiving aligned love without abandoning your spirit in the process. And that is exactly who you are becoming now. A soul that no longer seeks completion through others. A soul that understands peace is more valuable than emotional chaos. A soul that finally recognizes its own worth without needing constant external validation. That is the true transformation. Chosen one. Many people spend their entire lives chasing relationships while never healing the wounds, controlling their choices. But you chose awakening. Even when it hurt. Even when it isolated you. Even when it forced you to confront painful truths about yourself and others. And because you chose healing over illusion, your destiny shifted. You are no longer attracting from survival. You are attracting from alignment. That changes everything. The people entering your life now will feel different. The conversations will feel different. The energy will feel different. Because you are no longer vibrating at the frequency of desperation and fear. You are vibrating at the frequency of peace. And peace attracts what force never could. That is why your current season matters so much. This quietness is not emptiness. This stillness is not abandonment. This detachment is not failure. It is preparation. Preparation for a life where love no longer feels like emotional warfare. Preparation for connections rooted in reciprocity instead of confusion. Preparation for sacred union. And whether that union arrives tomorrow, months from now, or unexpectedly when you least expect it, your soul is already moving closer to it every time you choose peace over chaos. That is the real journey. Not chasing someone. Not obsessing over signs. Not losing yourself trying to force destiny. But becoming emotionally whole enough to receive what is divinely aligned without fear controlling your heart. Chosen one, if this message found you today, it was not by accident. Your spirit needed this reminder. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. And your story is not over. The peace entering your life right now is not the end of passion. It is the end of suffering disguised as love. And for the first time in a very long time, your soul is finally becoming ready for the kind of connection that does not ask you to betray yourself in order to keep it. So before this message ends, take a deep breath and truly feel how far you have come. You survived things that were meant to break you. You walked through emotional darkness and still chose healing. You lost people and still kept your heart open. That strength matters. If you can feel this transformation happening inside your spirit, if you know your soul is no longer willing to settle for emotional chaos, if you are finally choosing peace over chasing, then comment, I choose alignment over fear. Let the universe hear your declaration. And remember, chosen one, what is truly meant for you will never require you to lose yourself in order to receive it.